Hey guys, another tips and tricks video. This one's about managing your money early on to make for an easier and hopefully longer run. Following these tips should allow you to get a decent amount of money early on so you can get some good gear, and that'll give you a good platform to go on a long run. So when you're just starting out on a new character, money's typically tight, and that's why the first tip is to just focus on getting yourself a good weapon and shield. I know that seems obvious, but what I mean is don't worry about armor or helmets if you don't even have a shield. A decent shield will protect you way more than armor would anyway. In fact, I typically sell any armor that my fighter has at the start, especially if it has negative fame multipliers. Another way to go about gearing yourself early on is to just get a two-hander instead of a weapon and a shield. That way you only have to spend on one item, and two-handers can make fights pretty easy early on because of their damage when enemies don't have much armor and sometimes not even shields. You see, in this first fight, I didn't really want to use the pick that my guy started with, so I went for a luck of the draw many versus one because that's going to make it a lot easier on me when I don't love my weapon. And that's another thing, which is probably the most important thing you can do, and that's checking which fights are available before you do anything else. So right after you finish one fight, go right back to the list and see what's next, because that should help you set your priorities for spending money, healing, or whatever. Some things to look for are for luck of the draw fights if you don't have a weapon to use, insurance if you're worried about your stuff breaking, many versus one fights if maybe you can't afford to heal. That'll let you get through a fight by letting your team do most of the work. Also, if it spoils to the victor, then your team may be able to help you get some better gear. And you see here, after that first fight, I get a pretty decent weapon in the shop in the Iron Chromo, so I take a look at the fights available and I see there's a 1v many that'll pay me more than double the other fights. Again, the weapon I've got isn't ideal, but it's only 2 enemies, so I go for it because that's going to give me the money I need to get a nicer weapon. And that's another tip, you should really pay attention to the early 1v many fights. They can be scary, but you should really be on the lookout for them because getting through just a few of them early on can give you so much more money than other types of fights. Early on, enemies don't have great gear either, and sometimes they hardly have gear at all, so these fights really aren't that bad and the rewards are really worth it. So thanks to that fight, I'm able to buy the Chromo, and you can see in the next fight against another opponent that doesn't have much armor, I'm able to do some really good damage and it's an easy fight. After that, I do a quick spoils in hopes of getting a shield. You see the enemy has one, so I just have to kill him and take care not to break it. I do that. Now it's week 5 and I've got a good weapon and a decent enough shield. Obviously it's not the best, but it'll do. So here I actually end up having a bunch of 1v minis to choose from, and they all pay the same, so I go with the one that I think has the weakest lineup, because I know my sword's going to be able to shred these guys. I exchange some fame as well so that I can place a bet and get a little more money. I'll talk more about betting in a minute. But you see, in this fight, these guys aren't really wearing armor either, so my sword's able to do some really good damage, and I'm hardly taking damage because they don't have good weapons, and my shield's doing its job well enough. So I did another quick fight after that, and then when I got back to the armory, there's a really nice shield that I've got the money for thanks to that 1v many. So I buy that, and now I really feel good about where I'm at. It's week 7, and I've got one of the best shields in the game, and a really decent sword. From here, I pretty much feel like I can take on almost any fight, and can start focusing on buying some armor and secondary gear. And as I mentioned earlier, the last thing I want to talk about is betting and which bets are actually good to place. So you've probably noticed that not all bets can actually be done in any given fight. Enemies only have 100 hit points, so that's something to remember. Another thing to remember is that kills don't necessarily equal full damage. So if you go into a 1v3 and bet on yourself to deal 300 damage, if an enemy does even 1 damage in friendly fire, you lost your bet. I find damage bets to be pretty risky, so I prefer time bets. In the stats for your current run, it shows you the average time your fights take. So you see here for me, that's about 1:30, so I know that a win in 2 minutes bet is pretty safe, especially if it's only 1v1. Usually I find even a minute to be plenty of time for 1v1 honestly, and any other amount of time is pretty much free money. A good thing to do is when you're checking which fights are available, also check which bets are available to see if you should try and leave some money to bet with. You saw earlier some other good bets I placed were 3 living teammates and a 4v1, which is pretty easy to do. And 300 damage against like 7 guys is also pretty safe. Also pay attention to payouts like this, where one fight may pay less, but then with a bet it ends up paying more. And that's about it, so hopefully these tips can help you guys get the most out of your gold, or just get a little more gold in the first place. And as always, thanks for watching, subscribe if you want to see more, and good luck in the arena.